We are back with another video here, and this time we are going to be refinishing our floors. Before we go and rent the floor sander, what I want to try and figure out is if this little random orbit is going to work well enough to do the edges, or if I should just go and rent the edge sander as well as the regular floor sander. So we're going to do a little experiment here, see how this thing does. I do have a shop vac. I'm going to hook it up and see if we can use that to keep some of the dust down. And we're just going to try it on this edge here and see if it will work. Well, I don't have an adapter. Let's make our own. Let's see if we can make this work. All right, that's not going to work. I'll just kind of hold it on. All right, that probably could work, but I don't know. Kind of think I should rent the sander. So I'm going to cut it off here for tonight, and we will pick up once we actually get the rental and get started on working on this. So see you later. All right, well, here we are with a rental on a floor sander that I have for 4 hours, and they did not give me a freaking sanding drum. I'm gonna need to go back and get one. So anyway, great. All right, well, we've got sandpaper now. It's really irritating. They would let you walk out without any sandpaper. So I have a 36 grit and we have a 60 grit. Again, there's a lot of heavy finish and stuff to remove, so I think probably a 36 is the way to start. Let's start this in the closet. So we can get a feel for it. Let's take a look here. Oh yeah, I did a really nice job. I know they say you're not supposed to do this, but I'm gonna go cross. All right, we seem to be making progress. So I'm going to pause here. I also need some hearing protection, so this is starting to get to my ears. All right, looks like we got one little sparse spot over there in the corner. We might be able to get a little bit better. That's pretty good for a first pass. Should check this bag here. All right, we emptied the bag. We've got to change the drum. Okay, that's a 60 grit. All right, here we go with our first pass. So all we really have to do is come and do all of these edges. I think we're well ahead of schedule on the rental. So this is the perfect amount of time for me to call it for here. We will pick back up once I'm ready to start doing the edges. I've got to go return this machine and probably do a little bit of cleanup. So overall, aside from having to go back to the hardware store for sandpaper because they didn't sell me any and didn't tell me I needed to buy it, good experience, and I think this room will turn out pretty well. All right, we are back here. We need to get to standing. We need to make sure it's off. Need to make sure that this thing is inserted. There we go. Okay, so all right, we got a twist and lock. Did that just trip the breaker? It did. Well, damn. All right, I'll be back. The breaker did trip. What was funny, I could be wrong, but I could have swore it tripped when I turned it off. So there might be some sort of power surge in the switch. So I'm going to try and avoid using it to turn it off because it totally tripped the breaker. Anyway, let's get back to this. All right, our bag isn't too bad. Let's check our paper though, because yeah, that looks like it's clogged. I'm glad I got 2 sheets. Thankfully, we just have this little corner left. All right. That got pretty much all of our edges. It is still pretty rough, so I think it warrants another pass with the 60 grit. But I'm going to take a little break. Using that thing is not fun. And you basically have to bend over or get on your knees, like whatever. Either way, it's not easy. So anyway, I'm going to take a break for now, and I'll come back to this with the other paper. Now, before we continue, I am going to try and remove this mystery object. I'm not sure what it's doing there, why it exists. I did hit it with a sander. But yeah, I'm not really sure what that was supposed to be there for. Figure. But now we've got a bunch of nails to pull up. So 2 of those nails had the heads ground off them, so I just hammered them flat. That's working good for these corners. Let's do some more. Let's do a little feel. I think that's good. That's good. I think all that's left is to vacuum and stain. All right, we'll take this back and on to stain. And we're getting very close to putting down some stain and then some clear. However, we do need to sand these corners. So that edge sanding tool, as you can probably see in this corner, it does get pretty close to the corners, but it is a 7-inch diameter thing and it's got handles sticking out the sides, so you don't actually have the ability to get really tight into the corners. So I've got this oscillating sanding pad, and this is 60 grit paper. So this should be good for getting into the little corners, and we don't need to use this on a huge area, so you know, it should work out. So let's give this a try. Well, I think that's working. There's like a paint streak or something in the corner here that's really stubborn. There we go. All right, let's do some more. All right. Almost there. I think we're about ready to stain. We did some vacuuming and some cleanup, and we are ready to begin our stain job. One thing I did to prepare is get this ready. I ruffled it up. I went over it with a lint roller for about 5 minutes, a couple different sheets, and so that should be pretty clean. We've got some Minwax espresso, very dangerous, etc. And we just need to mix this up. Okay, I think that's mixed pretty well. Did forget, I need to get some paper towels. I have never applied finish before to a floor, so we'll see how this goes. And I'm starting in the closet for a reason. Oops. Just trying to even this out a little bit. Wipe up some of this excess and redistribute it. We're coming off here. Looks like I'm relegated to pushing or pulling. I've got to fix this. All right, so I got this fixed, and let me tell you, this was a pain in the rear. So the way that this works is this has a machine screw in here with a Phillips head that is not locked into this middle piece of wood. And so you have to stick a Phillips head through the pad to try and tighten down those little wing nuts. So yeah, this is a not great design. Hopefully I can get some of these streaks up before it dries, because it's already starting to. I'm giving up on this one. I have a second one, and I'm gonna go get it prepped. All right, I got a fresh one here, and I cranked these down as tight as I could. Why won't this screw in? What in the world? Okay, this seems to be working. Let's get our feet protectors on again. I think I've got it about as good as it's gonna get. It's taken a lot of work to get all of the streakiness out of this. There's probably a better way to apply this, is what I'm thinking. It's like, I don't think that applicator is the best, because especially with this really dark pigment, like anytime you stop, or like if you even try and do like a gradual lift off, like you always just leave an excess line. Now, one of the critical mistakes that I did make is I put way too much stain too early. Like if you saw over here as I was going through, there was just a ton of excess stain. I really didn't know how much this floor would take. And what I ended up doing is wiping it off and reapplying it over here and trying to spread it out as much as possible. But I just used way too much at first. So a little goes a long way with a dark color like this. And who knows, I'm gonna let this dry. It might turn out that what really needs to happen is a second coat to even some of this out. So again, in the camera, it doesn't look too bad. If we get some ambient lighting, with just the lamp, it looks pretty decent. So I'm not too picky about it. This is a bedroom. It'll probably be okay, but who knows? We'll see. I think I like it. We will just need to wait and see what this ends up looking like. And if I need to do some touch-ups before we, go and do the clear, fine, but I'm pretty happy with the way it looks right now. If I do need a second coat, I definitely have enough in that little pail over there to do it in the bed, in the roller bed. So that's it for now. We'll check back and see how this is doing. All right, we are here back in our room. It is the following day. We let all of this wood finish soak in. And what I want to do is take some time just to look and see if we have any little lint balls from our applicator that are, stuck or on the floor. I do see a couple little spots that we need to clean up. So let's get a little bit of tape and do that. So you can see there's some little things here. And what I'm looking to do is to make sure that we don't have any junk in our clear coat when we do it, because there is a little bit of stuff here and there that came off the walls. And then we also need to make sure that we clean up some of the excess stain, because there are a couple little spots where it's still a little bit too heavy, and so we need to correct that. So I actually need to get some gloves, so I will be back in just 1 second. Especially over here, there's a lot of excess that still needs to be pulled up. And then, especially in this corner, so that's what we're getting back up. I'm going to continue to work on this and we will come back. We've gone and wiped down all the excess spots that I could see in the finish. There were a couple areas where it was still a little heavy, and it cleaned up pretty nicely, so we're looking pretty decent as far as things go. Again, like reduced lighting, I think it looks pretty good. Different lighting conditions. One thing that I will say, which is a learning experience for me because I've never done this before, we went way too heavy on the stain at first. This wood is only going to take so much, I think, and there's a couple spots, especially around the edges, where I wish I had spent a little bit more time with the edge sander to kind of blend it in with the main field a little bit more. But it is what it is, and again, I am not expecting perfection. This is in our master bedroom, so it's not a very public part of the house, and it's just, again, this back edge, which most people are not really ever going to see. So I am not too worried about it. I have to do this whole thing all over again throughout most of the upstairs house. We have another bedroom that is going to be a bedroom for my son, who is yet to be born, but we need to go through and do this same thing, put down some finish and clear coat over it. The whole hallway, living room area, all that needs to be done as well. And so this has really helped me figure out kind of what I need to do in the future for when I go and do this again. And in all likelihood, you know, there's going to be more videos that come out to cover all those things because, you know, we've got a baby due in August, and, you know, you want to have a nice house for your little one. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Not much else to say other than we need to get busy with doing our clear coat. So that's really the final step of this whole process, is getting that done. I'm going to let this air out a little bit longer. The instructions on the can say to wait 24 hours before applying clear coat to this stain. So we are just about to that time, and especially since I wiped down some of the excess stain off from some of these areas that's kind of newly exposed. I do want to give it a little bit more time to kind of dry out, I'm not really leaving any footprints or anything in this anymore, so it's coming out pretty even. We just gotta wait and do our clear coat here in a minute, so we'll be back. I've gone through and wiped up all the excess. There was still some excess, especially along this edge and this edge, where I pushed a little bit of excess stain there. We've gotten up all the little dust and lint and everything that I could see before we clear coat. Again, I've wiped off excess stain from pretty much everywhere I could see it. I have a satin polyurethane floor finish to go over this. It does have a little bit of amber tint to it. It's all I could find at my local hardware store. So it might change the color from this a little bit. I don't know, we'll see. Again, this is not perfection. I knew this would probably have a couple issues, and it does. Like you can see there's some uneven sanding along the edges. So, you know, we're kind of stuck with what we've got. All right, it has been several hours. We've allowed this stain to fully set up for a whole day. And so I think it's about time for us to do clear. We've got a little applicator. It's the same kind I was using yesterday, but I did pretty vigorously crank down these little wing nuts with a screwdriver before I started using it. So I think we should be good. I have this polyurethane for floors. It says that we should be able to recoat within 2 hours of cure without having to resound. And that, you know, basically you've got to apply it and come back, do your second coat. It also says you've got to stir it and not shake it. We're going to get that started right now. Let's start stirring. They say that this is supposed to avoid settling, but we're going to stir it anyway just to make sure. It looks like it's already pretty consistent. And I think what I'm going to do is lay just a little pour of it across and work my way back towards the door. Oops. All right. Let's give this a try. Let's see if I've got enough or if I need more. Oh boy, I don't know about this. That's dripping quite a bit. Yeah, that's like way too much that I tried putting on. Okay. Let's pour a little more, because apparently a little goes a long way. the lid on. Okay. I think that is good enough for now. We will definitely want to do a second coat. And I'm going to go clean this applicator off. It says to do that in water, so we'll make that happen. All right, it has been a few hours and we have let this clear coat set up. In the instructions, it says that you can apply additional coats in as little as 2 and up to 8 hours later without having to sand. So I did get a fairly thin coat of clear over, as it turned out. It does look pretty nice and even. There were some areas over here where I was a little bit concerned that it was a little bit too thick because I had pushed the stuff over there. Again, I was concerned about some buildup over here just because, you know, I had pushed excess clear coat over to the edge, but it cleared up and it doesn't show up as out of place or anything. Now, that being said, I do want to be a little bit more judicious in how I actually put this clear coat on this time. I think I went a little bit overboard with it at first, and I also want to try applying it more this way. So I'm going to start over there and work my way around. Again, everything is looking pretty good. It's got, again, just one very thin coat and it looks really nice. I mean, you could probably just leave it like this, but I do want to build up a little bit more. So I want to do at least one more coat and see where it goes from there. This is a water-based poly, so it does clean up very well. My applicator, I just ran it in the sink with a little bit of dish soap and it cleaned up very well. So we should be able to go over this with that same applicator and not have any issues. I'm also just again really happy with like the color. I was a little bit worried about the stain and how even that color would be when I was applying it, but it cleaned up pretty nice. And again, I don't have any big complaints. There are some, you know, little nitpicky things you could say about the edges that kind of stick out, but I'm not going to sweat it. We're going to pour a little bit here. I think that shows up pretty well in the camera. Let's put down a little bit of a bigger puddle. And what's kind of interesting is this clear coat shows up a lot stronger on the camera than it does in real life. You know, like I can kind of see a line a lot easier with the camera than I can just looking at it. Here. Let's make sure we get across the edge. And I should mention, this is a satin finish, so I don't expect that we're going to pull back a very shiny finish. It does look pretty slick when you're applying it. And I'm trying to go with the grain here. All right. Let's pour a little bit more. There we have our second coat. We'll go wash this out. We'll let this cure for another couple hours and see what it looks like. Really want to try and seal this up really well. Especially this area right here. That's going to be a high traffic area, and especially in front of the closet. So do want to make sure that there's some good coats here. So another couple hours has elapsed and our second coat is dry. It's looking really good to me. Again, I'm not sure how well this turns out in the camera, but yeah, it's looking really nice and even, and all that. So I think what we can do is a third coat and make this the final one. We can start working on other things and finish up this room. And I do have to say, this stuff is like really easy to work with. I kind of like it, so it's not too stinky, so that's another advantage. This time I'm going to start from this corner and we will work our way back towards the door. Okay, got about half of the room done there. All right, so that is our third coat. I think I went a little bit heavier, but more even this time. So we'll see how this does. And hell, I might even decide to do a fourth. We'll see. All right, well, here we are. It's been about 12 hours of dry time on this third coat, and I am quite satisfied with the finish that we've got. Everything's looking nice and smooth. The clear coat went on very, very well. And there's no complaints. Again, I could have maybe done A little bit better job at sanding, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go back over it. I really like the results that we got with this. I think that pretty much wraps it up for this video. Next thing that we have to do is we have to put in our baseboards, and we have to prime, and then we have to paint. I already have some paint colors picked out. We have from Home Depot, they have a paint color, it's a bare paint color called Summer Dragonfly. And it's kind of like a bluish green kind of color that's going to go over all of this on the walls. And then I have kind of a creamy white for the ceiling and the trim. We do have to do this windowsill. I completely forgot about that. So that will be something that we'll do. And we've got to clean up some of these inside edges here with a little bit of drywall mud. So that will probably be the next video. I don't know if we'll combine that with the painting or not. Again, it's just paint. It's not super complicated. Again, we're very close to having this room be complete. I mean, it's quite the transformation from what we saw before. So if you like the video, like the video. If you want to see more of this project, subscribe to the channel. We also have a playlist set up for this series of videos for this room called Drywall Dungeon. And so you can see all of the progress that we've made over time. Thanks for watching. You have a good day.